Hey you guys, it's Tim again. It's been about 6 months since I've installed the supercharger on my car. I think I've had about 6 or 7,000, maybe 8,000 miles of driving on it. And so I thought I'd touch base and just sort of share what those last 6 months were like and things that I've noticed, things I've learned, additional things I had to do, and so forth. So to give a lightning quick summary, the car is a 2017 Chevy SS sedan with the LS3. It had some heads from Texas Speed on it. It has a stage 2 cam. It has long tube headers. And in, I think March or April of this year, I installed a Whipple 2.9 liter supercharger. I did it by myself in my garage with very limited tools. It went really well. I think I spent a long weekend installing it. I mean, it were long days, but it went on in one day. And that's it. It's got a stock bottom end. It's got a stock clutch, believe it or not, which is still doing well, by the way. I think I have 68,000 total miles on the car right now. The last sort of 7 or 8,000 actually have the supercharger on it. So reliability wise, the car has been extremely reliable. I haven't had any major hiccups, no breakdowns, no stranded on the side of the road, no leaks, no, well, where's this fluid coming from? Nothing like that. I've had some tiny issues. I've had a wire loom, for example, that I accidentally did not tuck far enough back, and one of the idler pulleys on my serpentine belt setup every now and then would touch the wire loom and kind of ground through it, and actually also then ground some of the insulation off of one of my sensor wires, which once in a great while would then actually ground out and cause the ECU to have fits. That is entirely my fault. I mean, it was in the instructions where to route it. I just didn't really, do it completely properly, or I was tired. I don't know what was going on. But anyway, I actually got help from Powerfab Autosports. They spent hours and hours diagnosing it, finally found it and fixed it, and that has never, ever been an issue again. The one other item I've had is that the MAF sensor, I think, maybe got a little bit of oil on it, given that the kit comes with a brand new K&N panel filter. And I think 2 times now, the car has gone into limp mode because the actual MAF indicated airflow and then sort of the other calculated airflow that the ECU does didn't match up. And I got the message, limited engine power or whatever, and limped somewhere. The fix to it was just to reset the battery, and it completely solved the problem. It, was instantly drivable again, no remaining error codes, no any sort of trouble whatsoever. At some point, I probably should take the MAF out and clean it to make sure that there isn't oil from the K&N on there. For a little while, I thought maybe it's because the throttle body is upside down. They take it, when you install it, they sort of flip it 180. And I thought maybe it could have something to do with that, but the more I think about it, I'm almost completely certain it's just oil on my MAF from the brand new K&N oil filter that I put in. Let's see, what else? Reliability-wise, oil consumption has not increased. I think even, now I've been to my second kind of oil change. I've done 2 since putting that kit on. It drinks about 1 quart. 1.5 quarts or so between 4,500 mile oil changes. That's roughly the interval that I do them at. I often follow like the guidance that the car computer gives me on my oil life, but that's not an increase over what it was before. It's consumed roughly that much oil, since the day I got the car, and I think that's not completely unusual for LS3 cars to use a little bit of oil. What is interesting is that before I installed the supercharger, I could occasionally actually smell a little bit of oil burning. It was very, very faint, and the wind had to be just right, and my windows had to be down, which was annoying at the time. With the kit installed, the actual crankcase ventilation comes from a different location on the motor now. And so while it is still ventilated into the intake tract, it seems to be in a place where there's less oil droplets or oil spray or whatever it is, because I absolutely do not smell any burning oil at all, ever, since I've installed the new intake tract in the Supercharger. And for a while I thought, well, not enough oil has just made it all the way to the intake runners and soon I'll start smelling it again, but I'm not. So apparently wherever the positive crankcase pressure is ventilated from is a good place because no oil vapors are getting into my intake tract. Let's see. So additional mods. When I first put the kit in, we ran out of fuel pump because the standard Whipple kit works great for stock LS3s. Once we put, big valve heads on and a high lift long duration cam, the whole thing breathed much more easily. And so, we ran at a much higher injector duty cycle just to supply with fuel, and the stock fuel pump just couldn't keep up with oil pressure, at real high RPMs. So our initial solution to that was a Kenny Bell booster pump, which actually overvolts the stock fuel pump whenever you're in boost. It looks at the map sensor, and then whenever you're in boost, it actually overvolts the stock fuel pump to 25 volts. And that then actually supplies amply sufficient fuel and keeps the pressure up even at the very high RPMs. I didn't like it because it caused other functionality in my ECU to go haywire. So oddly enough, I could not change my muffler setting anymore. I still have the stock bimodal mufflers, and it was just stuck in performance mode. Very weird. Also very loud, and I would leave my house at 5 a.m. for work, and I'd be sort of ashamed because my neighbors would have to listen to it essentially as a straight piped LS3. So we took the Kenny Bell booster pump out, and we installed a DSX aux fuel kit, just straight up the fuel kit that's available on the DSX tuning site. I think it's a little under $1,000, somewhere around there. And it requires tapping the tank. A fuel line runs up front. There is an auxiliary pump that also comes on whenever the car is in boost. And it has functioned magnificently. Again, it was Powerfab Autosports that actually did that installation for me. I think they may have had trouble with one fuel line, but they were able to fab up the fuel line to replace the faulty one in the kit, and it works great. Never had any problem whatsoever. Fuel pressure is great at all RPMs. It doesn't act up, it doesn't leak. I don't have weird noises. Everything's really good with that. So that is one additional modification we had to do specifically for my car, just because it breathes better than the stock LS3 do. Let's see, so driving impressions. It's still really, really fun to drive. In the beginning, I was actually scared of the car. It would just fishtail violently and spin the tires and, anything below fourth gear. So I've become a little bit more careful and observant of what road surface I'm on before I step on the gas. I've had to change my tires. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But a lot of the power coming on happens relatively early in your throttle position, and one learns how to drive the car a little bit differently. So instead of half throttling, you probably spend a lot of your driving between 5 and maybe 20% throttle position, and it's absolutely fine. It's summer here in Texas. I think it's 97 degrees out right now, and we're in late September. The car was tuned in, I think it was April, when it was, 65 degrees or something like that. I think at the time it made somewhere like 675 wheel horsepower or something like that. It's obviously less than that when it's 97 degrees. It's just so hot. I'm sure all that power will come back once, we get into the cooler months. It's not disappointing. It's still way more power than I could ever possibly need. But it is noticeably different. That, a 63-degree driving is absolutely different than 97 or 100-degree Fahrenheit driving. The power delivery, may have touched on this a little bit. The power delivery is very linear with RPMs, right? So the horsepower curve just steadily rises all the way to redline and is very linear in that sense. It is, however, not linear with the throttle position. That is mainly due to the fact that there is a boost bypass valve, which is open and allow, when you're just putting around and you don't want to be in boost. And the second you get past a certain engine load or throttle position sensor, that valve closes. And there's a little actuator with a line with a restrictor in it that's intended to make it close not so abruptly. And I think it successfully does so, but it is still somewhat abrupt. So you can go at 20 or 25% throttle position, all of a sudden that is fully closed. And instead of having a 6.2 liter motor, you have a 10 liter motor or 11 liter motor, or whatever that turns out to be at 7 or 8 pounds of boost. So early in the throttle position sensor percentage is where the largest sudden horsepower increases come from. So if, let's say, you're on an on-ramp and you're in fourth gear, the acceleration will change very drastically from, say, 5% throttle to 30% throttle position. Beyond that, even if you mash it all the way to the floor, it'll get a little bit louder, right, because the throttle body is open further, but you don't get continuously massive more acceleration. And that's just because the bypass valve is closed. The compressor is delivering, whatever boost it will with the 4-inch pulley I've got on there. And all of that's fine. It just takes a little bit of getting used to that sort of all of the change in power delivery happens in the first quarter or third, or for sure the first half of the actual throttle position. And I've noticed for me, it makes kind of the second half of the throttle, not really used all that much. I've had to change tires. So I've had what I think are very good tires. They're the Pilot Sport PS4S. They're very popular tires. I had 295 35 19s on the back. And they would just spin. They would not hook, depending on the road surface. On asphalt roads, for example, even in fourth gear, sometimes they would spin. In third gear, for sure they would spin, and a lot of times it would happen, at 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 RPM. When you're actually going kind of fast, and it's really disconcerting and scary to have the car suddenly start fishtailing. So I chose to take those Michelins off, and I replaced them with stickier tires. And so the first set of tires that I've got, that I have on there now, they are R-compound tires. They're probably a little bit more geared towards road course. They are the Goodyear Eagle F1 Supercar 3R. I think that's their name. I'm almost certain. They come on the Camaro ZL1 1LE, the track pack one. They're 100 tread wear tire, so they're not going to last very long. They still spin though. So on first gear anyway, anything's going to spin in first gear. Second gear, they actually hook relatively well on cement roads or concrete roads, I should probably say. If you have asphalt roads or backcountry roads that are just sort of rolled out, they spin in second, they spin in third, but not as badly as the Pilot Sports. And I'm not knocking the Pilot Sports at all. Those are phenomenal tires. I was very, very happy with them when I was sort of in the 500 wheel horsepower range, but they don't work anymore. They scared me badly. I was worried that I was going to wreck just trying to do a normal pass. So anyway, the new ones, these R-compound F1 supercars, they do still spin, but they don't cause the car to violently fishtail. So I'm happy about that. And then I know when these wear out, which will likely be pretty soon, I don't know, in the next 6 months to a year or so, I'm going to give the Nito, I think it's 555R, the DOT legal kind of street strip drag radials. I think I'm going to give those a try next. Yeah, so I guess that's sort of the thoughts that I've had after 6 months and about 6,000 to 8,000 miles of driving on the Supercharger. It's still really fun. I don't regret it at all. It's an absolutely wonderful addition to my car. It requires more thought now and a little bit more caution and diligence on the driver's part, because the car will do exactly what you tell it to do, and if you tell it to do something stupid, it will do it. There is no safety mechanism, no traction control will save you. It just overpowers that. So I like it. I drive it more carefully. Anyway, hopefully you guys think this was helpful. If I was wrong with anything, if I got some of the mechanical facts wrong, please let me know in the comments and I can maybe fix it. Yeah, and that's it. If you have any questions, ask them. I'll do my best to write answers back. Thanks and bye.